Okay. Hello, and welcome to Ready for Startups startup track at DevTalks. It's great having you. So please tell me a bit about yourself and about EyeSight, which is the startup you're here to talk about.
Hello, Paul. Well, EyeSight is a very interesting concept because what we're trying to do is help people. Um, there is a disease called lazy eye or amblyopia that affects about 5% of the population. Those numbers are done in the US and the West in West Europe. And basically what happens after some point, you lose vision in your bad eye. We go about treating this not in a conventional way, but in a new, fun and exciting way. That means instead of waiting about 2 weeks, having a patch over your eye, or making your child do grueling tasks, we put them, let's say, in a game, in a virtual reality, where they interact with virtual objects that only the affected eye can see. That means they are made to interact and they are made to use the bad eye while using both their eyes to avoid further complications like double vision.
Wow, sounds really interesting. So how did you guys come up with this idea to build this device?
Well, to be honest, this is an idea we had for some time. We were at the hackathon, Innovation Labs actually, and we had this opportunity to speak with an ophthalmologist, and he was talking about eye diseases and stuff. And one of our members, our designer, she said, well, I had that, and it was awful. And we thought, let's change how this is treated.
Wow, so you have somebody on your team who's actually had this problem, and she went through it without something like what you're currently building.
Yes, she had to go the old-fashioned way.
Okay, so the eye patch and
The eye patch, the eye patch, the treatments, the visits to the doctor. That, I mean, she was a child. You can expect a child to understand what treatment is and to take it lightly.
Okay, so we're talking about a product that needs to be used by children at a very young age.
Young age meaning from 6 to about 14 years old.
Okay, 6 years old, that's pretty young. Okay, so tell me a bit about the current status of your product. How far along is it? Is it working?
Currently, we have a prototype. It's not yet an MVP, but it is working, it is usable, and we have placed it in a clinic in Cluj for some time, and we receive feedback. And we are working to perfect it, but it's never going to be truly finished. But we are trying to get as ready as we can for the launch.
Okay, that sounds interesting. So you have something that's working and it's already being tested.
Yes, medically.
Medically, yes. So is your product a medical device per se by definition?
That is a tricky question. It can be a medical device, but for that you need certification, and we do not have the certification yet. It can be used as a treatment without being a medical device, as long as there's a doctor there.
So at the moment, the product is used in a doctor's office under the
Yes.
supervision of a doctor.
Yes.
Okay, and for it to be used at home by my child in his room doing his exercises, it would have to go, it would have to be tested and verified and go through clinical trials and so on.
Yes, and we are some ways away from that, both technologically, because it's an investment in hardware, and both as a society, I think, because nobody really wants that kind of treatment at home without the doctor's supervision. So we are currently just targeting clinics, targeting the doctors, and trying to revolutionize the industry from inside.
I see. So it makes more sense to actually do this treatment in a doctor's office.
Yes.
And it makes the parents feel safer that they don't have to do it at home, and they don't have to buy any expensive hardware or anything like that.
That's what most of the people we talked to said.
Okay, that's good to know. Can you also tell me a bit? I know last year you got some media coverage, like national media coverage. Can you speak a bit about that?
Yes, we send our people person to iQuest. Uh, I like IT. I'm sorry. I like IT, and well, basically what happened, our inbox exploded. There were parents that were interested when it is coming to the market. There were doctors that said, we should talk about this, send me an email. And there were a few people not from the industry that were really interested in the technology we were using, how we were using it, and how they could use it for other purposes than what we were doing, because we are basically building an extensive framework that can advance the field more.
Okay, so you're doing a bit of research and development in VR?
Yes, the research has taken most of the development time actually, because it's something that's never really never been done before. It's, let's just say, it is interesting, and everything we have done and learned, it's inside research.
Okay, and you mentioned that you were also approached by parents who are asking for the product, and by doctors
yes.
that want to work together.
Most of our emails were from parents concerned that didn't like the way their children were treated, because it's not fun seeing your child, let's just say, suffering from a disease, and it's not fun having the treatment be that invasive, because not seeing with one eye is not the funnest thing you can do.
I agree. So, I Like It, which is a national show, brought you a lot of feedback from various types of stakeholders, let's call them clients, people you can work together, and so on. How did you guys get that kind of media coverage? I mean, not many startups, I know, end up on national television.
Well, that wasn't the only big coverage we had, because we've been going to different conferences, hackathons, accelerators, and we've been putting ourselves out there for people to see, for people to know what is happening, and hopefully someone is interested enough to believe in our idea and help us along.
Okay, you mentioned accelerators as well. Have you been accelerated already? Have you gone through a program?
Yes, we have been through the Spheric Accelerator in Cluj. We got there by participating a couple of years with a similar project in innovation labs, hackathons.
Okay, and what would be the next steps? I mean, you already had media coverage, like national media coverage. You've been through an accelerator. You have a prototype. So these are already like very good steps towards really taking on the market. What will be some of the next, let's say, 3 to 6 month steps in your journey?
We have to place our product in several clinics, receive additional feedback, and then see how doctors would want to monetize our product.
Okay, so you're still working on the business side of things, let's call it like that, on the business model maybe?
The business model is, we are trying to make a B2B business model, subscription based, but we don't know the price yet.
Okay, well, you need to find out the price, that's for sure, as soon as possible. So it makes sense for both you and your customers, which would be the doctors in this case, right?
The doctors are
the doctors. Okay. So I mean, if there's anything you guys need currently, what would that be? What's your biggest, let's say, hurdle right now? What's your biggest problem?
We need trust. We need trust from people to believe in us, to let us place this in their clinics. We need trust from people to help us along with funds, and we need trust from people to keep us going.
Okay.
This is a project of love, mostly.
I sense behind the trust part is also some very clear startup needs, like maybe some kind of investment and customer acquisition, if you were to put it more in startup terms.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, I'd say that covers my questions. Thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing the details, and best of luck with the product.
Thank you.
Thanks.